Hello guys, my name is Kelly Reyes and I'm taking you behind the scenes of how applications actually work in production. I've touched a bit on this before, but I'm going to go into it again in a little more detail. When you have applications running in Kubernetes in a production environment, you would need to think about Kubernetes security. You need to think about how to secure that environment and the applications that are running within that environment. In light of this, some of the things that you would think about would include your cluster security, your pod security, your container security, your network security, and secret management. Under your cluster security, you need to make sure that access to your API server is secure with TLS encryption and RBAC access control. Then you need to make sure that your etcd database, which is a database that stores all of the information about your cluster, is secure and most times encrypted. You also need to make sure that your nodes, the worker nodes and the control nodes in your Kubernetes cluster, are hardened and secure. Update them and patch them regularly. Make sure that your container runtime is secure and harden them with whatever processes that are recommended for you according to the CIS benchmark. Next will be your pod security. You need to make sure that you're setting your security context of your pods and containers correctly. Make sure that your containers and pods are not running as root users, because if an attacker gets access to that pod, he can make root user level changes to your node, and we don't want any of that. You also need to make sure that you're setting necessary resource limits on your pods to avoid denial of service if your pod is consuming a lot of resources within your node and within your cluster. On your container security, you need to make sure that your container images are secure. Have your container images stored in a private repository and pull from that private repository. Try as much as possible in production not to be using public container images. Also, you need to make sure that you're scanning your container images regularly with various scanning tools that you have available to you, like Trivi, to make sure that your containers have little to no security vulnerabilities. When it comes to network security, you're running a distributed system, essentially a microservice architecture. So you need to make sure that your communications within your cluster and your communications from outside your cluster are kept secure. So your communications from one container, from one pod to another within your cluster are secure. You can do that using network policies in your CNI, or you can use a service mesh to handle security on layer 7. See your OSI layers if you don't know what I just said. Also, you need to protect your north-south traffic as well, which is traffic coming from outside your cluster into your cluster, by setting up security on your ingress controller, your ingress object, or your gateway API, and making sure that it is TLS encrypted and traffic that is coming into your cluster is kept secure. Also, on network security, let's try as much as possible to make sure that our worker nodes don't have public IP addresses. Let's keep them within a private subnet in our network, okay? We also need to make sure that our secrets within our Kubernetes environment are not exposed. We can use a secret management tool like Vault, or we can use secrets operators like SOPs, secret operators, Mozilla's SOPs, to make sure that your secret objects are encrypted within your environment. Also, you need to make sure that your Kubernetes cluster, which is your environment, your infrastructure environment, is well audited and sticking to compliance measures. You can also set up your own compliance policies using tools like OPA or Kyvero, and make sure that you're constantly watching your environment and keeping them compliant using Kubebench, which makes sure that your compliance is compliant with CIS benchmarks, and other tools like Falco to make sure that security is top-notch within your environment. Security is very important within production environments, but it's also important across all your environments, UAT staging, dev environments. I hope all of this makes sense. I'll see you in the next one.